Thanks everyone for joining. We've got Ryan here, Rob here, and Art here to talk a little bit about data and blockchain and DePIN. Been a extremely exciting week in DIMO world, announcing the partnership slash data union between DIMO and DLP Labs. Really one of the first opportunities in the DIMO marketplace for drivers to share their data and earn value back for it, which is what this is all about. And Ryan, I just ran the identity API on Demo one last time, and we have in fact broken 4,000 cars shared with DLP Labs, which is crazy to see just in the first couple of days, multiple thousands of vehicles being shared with DLP. That's going on to fuel cool AI models and stuff. Actually, no, now I'm spoiling your explanation of your project. So
No,
why don't
not
we kick off with that? Let's go around the horn. You guys can unmute. I want to hear your name. I want to hear what you do at your project. I want to hear a little bit about your project and also sprinkle some your career and history in Web3 and how you arrived at your current passion project.
cool, Ryan. GM, everybody. I see some folks have joined. By the way, that's funny. So we just hit now 4,000 cars because I have this Dune dashboard. I'm like refreshing it like crazy. Rob sent this over to me, and I'm literally going to break Dune. Like they're going to kick me off of Dune. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be able to drop some. I'm like, oh shit, this isn't refreshing. So like now I'm not going to have the latest numbers. And now Joe with the crushing it with giving us that update. His Dune likes him better than me. Okay, so let me tell you.
Oh, I go straight to the source. I pull from
You,
the
uh,
Demo
uh,
Identity
oh,
API.
yeah, exactly.
Whoa.
That's what you got to do. You got to be pulling from the API. Yeah, get off this Dune dashboard, go to the source. So I'll tell you, listen, I'll give the quick what we're building, and then I'll tell a little story about myself, how I got into this world, what we're trying to do. I'm Ryan. I'm the founder of DLP Labs. I'm also customer support at DLP Labs. What we do is we help people monetize their cars data. So we built a data union with Vana and DIMO, and basically, we issue token incentives similar to other DePIN projects to data contributors. And then if you want to access the data product of the vehicle telemetry data, the enriched vehicle telemetry data, similar to AWS credits, like you need to consume the token we're launching. Right now, we have points. Let me talk about why I got into this and why I'm excited about this space and then why I think it's like good for the industry, like this trend of DePIN and like data DAOs. So I started my career at LinkedIn, where I saw the profile data of LinkedIn was super valuable during the Microsoft acquisition. Then I did data partnerships at Meta. And basically, what was going on was Google was deprecating web cookies, Apple was changing the iOS policies. They were basically strangling Meta for the data that's used to personalize advertising at scale. So we did data partnerships with companies like LiveRamp, Simon Datatilium. And what we did was we had a server-side API product that allowed advertisers in a way that was privacy safe and adhering to GDPR and CCPA to move data and to do identity resolution and to personalize advertising at scale to protect billions of dollars of advertising revenue. And the challenge I saw at Facebook was something we all know, which is like Instagram creators are not participating in the economics of the ads business in a way that they wanted to. And so I was fascinated by this idea that you could use tokens to share the economics of apps and services we use and to share governance and to have ownership. Like that was very compelling to me. So I moved over to Coinbase on the wallet and on the BD team on wallet and pay products. Then I moved over to Polygon, where I was working with a lot of the enterprises during the crazy times with the SEC to try to onboard them to leverage whether it was like stable coins, like Web3 loyalty, all these different use cases. And I began to realize that what's really driving this adoption and like where we're going to be able to make the biggest impact, in my opinion, is like the 1-2 punch of like DPIN and stable coins or data DAOs and stable coins. Like those are like the killer use cases, in my opinion. And what I saw Reddit do was Reddit began licensing its user-generated content to train AI models like OpenAI and Google Bard for $300 million, like data licensing deals, data as a service. And Vana, our arts team, was helped incubate this Reddit data DAO where you're able to contribute your Reddit data for tokens as an experiment to license it on your own half and have control of the AI that you're training on, like you have the economics and the AI models that we're training. That was super interesting to me. At the same time, I'm a DIMO driver. My car has been connected to DIMO, and because I see DIMO as it's a digital ID for your car, allows it creates like an app store for your car. It's like the plaid for cars and like connected IoT. There was an opportunity to connect the dots between Vana and Dino and build like the monetization layer for vehicle telemetry data and basically allow us drivers and fleets participate in the economic value of our data. So that's the whole purpose of DLP Labs. It's like our cars data is valuable. Like I'm super fascinated with this idea of Bitcoin mining. And it's like, what about if your car was like a data miner working for you and working for a fleet? So that's the vision of what we're trying to do with DLP Labs. And I just want to give a huge shout out to Demo and to the Vana team. Like if you're building, whether it's like a DAO, you're building connected car apps, like these two teams are like really great to work with. Like we've been able to bootstrap from literally zero to like 4,000 cars in under 48 hours, which is pretty insane, like beyond my expectations of what we're doing. And I'm super excited for the future where we're like really going to work to monetize this and use these crypto primitives to build new business models that share the economy of data. I'm going to continue ranting later, but I'll pause there. That's my little story.
Yeah, and before Rob chimes in, that Reddit Data DAO was really cool. And the first time I had heard of Vana, and I've been moderating subreddits since I was 15 years old. The Chef's Table on Netflix subreddit, and the like In June of Beats record label subreddit. And I used to be so much more into it, and then I fell out of it because I was like, I'm spending so much time moderating these communities and seeing none of the value flow back to me. I'm doing free work, and I became disillusioned with it and went hands off. And when the Reddit Data DAO came out, I connected my account, and for a long time there, I was the number one on the leaderboard just because I had been contributing to Reddit for over a decade at that point. I eventually got eclipsed by some Reddit tryhard or maybe a bot or something, but it was an aha moment for me of wow, there's this layer that someone built on top of Reddit that it could potentially provide me value for all of that work that I did that I thought was valued less. Yeah, I thought that was really cool and love what Vaughn is trying to do over there. Take it away, Rob. What do you do at DIMO?
Cool. What do I do? I'm one of the co-founders of DIMO and CEO of Digital Infrastructure Inc., which we could say is the labs company for DIMO. Ryan gave a great intro. Plaid for cars, something that we say all the time, or Roku. Like you think about it, if you build a streaming app and you want to put it on someone's TV, any TV, old TV, whatever, you don't want to build an integration to every single LG, TCL, whatever. You want to work with one of these platforms that lets your app connect to any TV. Or if you're working with Plaid, you want to build an app like Budget Tracker or whatever that can connect to any bank account. You want it to be easy. You want it to be trusted. And that's what we are for cars. We enable any app, any developer, any business to connect to any vehicle, regardless of automaker, in a trustless and secure and fair way that was previously totally impossible without blockchain. I think there's a lot of companies out there that throw blockchain in the mix just for the sake of it to launch a token and get some marketing or whatever. I think you see less of that now because some of the initial hype is worn off on that. And we're going to see more and more companies who are using blockchain for the legitimate security and decentralization properties that can lead to real innovation. So we give the car a digital identity on chain. That digital identity points to where the data is being stored. It's not all on chain. It's stored by a node that is off chain. And then that driver can sign on chain to give developers like DLP access to the car so they can stream things like the location and speed and throttle position and engine intake, air temperature, all kinds of stuff. There's a very long tail of data that we're able to get from cars. And there's a lot of things you can do with it. DIMO actually started with DLP's mission, more or less. We were building the DIMO that we have today, and we were building DLP in the beginning. We realized these were two separate things. The original premise was we were going to pay people in cash to plug devices into their car because we were struggling to get EV battery data for some engagements that we were hired for. And we just needed to see how EV batteries were performing in different locations because that data was valuable. and we couldn't get it. So we were going to plug these devices in, pay cash. We were also mining helium at the time. And we realized, what if we combined this network building mechanism? Didn't have a name back then. This was in 2021. There was no such thing as DPIN. But what if we combine this network building model with cars instead of radios? And that's how the initial idea for DIMO was born. But we quickly realized that in addition to monetizing the data, there's a lot of apps that you can enable as well. So the reason that you have an iPhone with GPS on it and Bluetooth isn't just so you can monetize your GPS and Bluetooth data. It's so you can access apps like Google Maps and Uber and Tinder and whatever you want. And so we want to enable all kinds of applications like DLP that monetize your data, but also applications that are online car clubs for car owners, that are insurance applications, that are fleet management applications, an AI car mechanic that you can ask any question to that knows everything that's going on in your car. All kinds of stuff is being built on DIMO. And that's what we're building our developer platform to enable. And we've decided that we're not going to be the ones to really build out this data broker business, because it's a huge business. It's a huge undertaking, requires a skill set we don't have. And that's why we're thrilled to work with partners like Ryan and Vana to monetize that data on behalf of our users.
Music to my ears. I feel like the original conception of blockchain was like a monetary revolution. They said it was the internet of value, and it still is that. I think the recent trend is almost like a data revolution of everyone always says data is the new oil, and if it's oil, then like AI and other things that ingest large data sets are the vehicle that the oil is going into. So excited to see some of the intersections of blockchain and data lately. Speaking of data and blockchain, all of our projects use data in novel ways in an innovative fashion that hasn't been done before. What opportunities do you see going into the future for data and blockchain, whether that's blockchain ingesting data to make decisions, or kind of the other way around, using blockchain to secure data and have transparency but also privacy at the same time?
Joe, is that directed at me?
Directed to really anyone.
I,
A teacher, I'm not going to call names. If you feel so passionate, feel free to mute and chime
for
in.
sure, this is one of the pitfalls of not being face to face on a panel, because you can't give me the stares being like, this is for you, Art. But I think for us at Vana, the real power of the blockchain is the ability to aggregate in a trustless environment. So the reason why large tech companies and these massive data brokers that Ryan's had experience with, I used to work for one of them, the reason why they have so much power in an AI world is because we make a trust assumption in them that they're able to structure and collate all of our data together. So my data isn't super valuable on its own, but my data with a butt ton of other people's is incredibly valuable to train models, to fine tune, to create these databases that go to build a lot of the AI technology that we use today. And that's what gives them the power. Joe, you talked about how you were a Reddit user. At the time when the Reddit Data DAO launched, Reddit was able to sell its dataset to Google Gemini for $250 million. And that was really offensive to a lot of Reddit people who were like, I use the platform in the...
Yeah, where's my
Yeah,
check?
exactly, right? You don't use this platform so that they can sell your data. But the reason why they were able to do that was because they have the power to aggregate and structure that data in a way that in the Web 2 world, nobody else does. But we live in Web 3. And a lot of what I'm talking about in terms of trustless cooperation, structuring of data, that can occur on chain. And that is really why the blockchain solution made sense for Vana. You asked, what is my experience in Web3? I would say very little. I come from a data science background, but the solution of blockchain, my co-founder worked at Cello. She was one of the early developers at Cello. We came together and realized, hey, this is actually the best solution for this problem of how do people create value from their data? Well, they create value by cooperating. How do we foster cooperation? We do it on chain. And this is what Ryan's done, and what Rob and DIMO have done here is a really good example of how you can create cooperation in data sets using blockchain so that it can create commercial value in a way that outcompetes in your world, the Teslas or the other folks that have the centralized control of your data.
Yeah, I think Art, it would be super helpful, like to contextualize maybe like the other, because we call ourselves DLP Labs is actually inspired by Vana, like data liquidity pools. Maybe you could just speak to what is a data liquidity pool? What is Vana doing? Bigger picture, even outside of like specifically like car data, just like in general, like what you're trying to enable. I think that'd be super helpful context for
Yeah,
people on the
sure, happy
call.
to. When I encountered this problem, I was actually a human subjects researcher at my alma mater, and we were looking at trying to model out the impacts of financial investments in a supply chain. It was a coffee supply chain, actually. Sounds totally random, but just bear with me. We had to say, based on each dollar spent, how much impact did that have on the social lives of the communities in this supply chain? And I was sent with a field team down to Latin America to collect this data. And it was an absolute nightmare because collecting human subjects data is very challenging. One night at dinner, my host mother was on her phone and I was like, Luz, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm on Facebook. And I was like, how much time do you spend on Facebook? She's like, pretty much my entire day when I'm not on the farm. And I said, what are you doing on Facebook? She's like, I talk about the harvest. I talk about my kids going to school. I talk about what I bought. I do my purchases on there. And I'm like, oh my God, the data that I'm harvesting, the data that I want to try to get to build this model is literally on this person's phone. And Facebook has access to it. If I can get access to it, this could solve my entire research problem. So take that idea of the data you create being powerful and just multiply it by every single platform that you use. That's essentially what we're trying to unlock at Vana. The idea that your data creates value for someone else right now because of the power to aggregate, and we want to try to create that value within each of the users that are actually creating the data. How do you do that? You start to create these organized pools of data. Ryan's created DLP Labs, which has aggregated the DIMO data. A lot of the folks on this call have DIMO. And so you've created a pool of data that's now liquid, i.e., usable in an AI. So a data liquidity pool, because you've structured your data together, you've combined it, and it's powerful. It creates insights and it's commercializable. You would not have been able to do that on your own without Rob and Ryan working so hard to bring it all together. And that's really the value that we're trying to create here at Vana, thinking about each of these pools of data that, when aggregated together, become liquid in a commercial sense that can create economic value or insights value. So we have data liquidity pools in vehicle telemetry, which is this data DAO. We have data liquidity pools in healthcare and biohacking, so the sleep.fun data DAO. If you've got a sleep tracker, you should connect your data there. We've got social media data liquidity pools because there's no reason why Reddit should be the only one to sell your data, so we have the Reddit data DAO as well. And Vana is really the infrastructure that enables this by allowing your data to become aggregated in a trustless way with total strangers around the world, where you each get commercial value from the data set.
I'll just say one more thing. Like what I thought was so cool about even the framing of it as a data liquidity pool is when people are providing liquidity to new chains, maybe there's like a chain is pre-TGE, they want you to provide assets, they want you to bring your, your Ether, you know, they want you to bring your USDC, your Tether, whatever it is, to provide liquidity to that chain. You're able to participate, let's say, like in the airdrop later, but data can be an asset like capital and labor. So now we could have a data liquidity pool. So it's like taking this financial framework and then applying it to other assets. So this like turning data into like real world asset is like super interesting to me. And I think as this category matures, like, and as more and more companies build data as a service models, I think this approach becomes more and more compelling because we're not stuck within the wall. On one hand, Art, to your point, it's wow, Facebook is like so powerful. They have so much data. I can tell you, working at from Facebook's perspective, it's true. Yeah, it's a big ads business, but there was always like identity resolution and enrichment that would have made it more valuable and more performant from an advertising perspective. So what we can do by providing these incentives is we can enrich data products on behalf of the contributors, and we can do things that the centralized players can't. So that's the hope, I think, and the promise of this, and what got me super excited about it and why I'm here. Yeah. So I just wanted to say the DLP concept was very compelling to me.
Yeah, I love that idea, Ryan, of enriching the data to do more than what we can currently do in Web 2. I think the aggregation piece in Web 3 is very important because it brings us in line with what they can do in Web 2. But what we can do in Web 3 is get that data to be incredibly performant because one wallet could be associated with several data points. At some point, Ryan, you might want to add I don't know, healthcare data to the vehicle telemetry data to say, is the way you drive, is there some sort of correlation between the way you drive and your general mental or physical health? Something like that, where we can create these wonderful deep data sets across multiple different sources, could be really valuable. And it goes to this point that you were mentioning there of data is a new asset class. And we're starting to realize that now, where in the future, we might see VCs investing in companies with data because that really creates the next level of performance for whatever they're building. That's very futuristic in how I'm thinking about that. But I think that it's like the idea that data is an asset and could be financialized is definitely where we're going with this project.
One, Rob, I was curious also if you and Joe maybe could speak to the roadmap of DIMO, because I feel like even as a DIMO user, and maybe it's just because I until recently haven't been super deep into the Discord, I didn't even realize all the stuff that was going on in the next year. So I would be curious. I think a lot of people would gain value from
You guys
that.
want to have your minds blown? Sure. We'll get into the. So earlier I was talking about where we started, which was how do we monetize data. From there we got to, okay, instead of just monetizing data, how do we enable applications? So a fleet UI where you log into, you can track your cars, an AI that can connect to your vehicle and control it, all kinds of fun things that we could build as actual applications, social applications, government applications, warranty and insurance applications, that kind of thing. That's not to say that those are better than the data monetization use case. They're a little bit more complicated, but we were early on, when we were raising money, we cited a report from McKinsey saying that car data is worth like 600. They think by 2030, much. And I think beyond that, it could go much further, but they think it's worth $600 a year per car, which there's 1.5 million cars in the world. That's a lot of money. And it's largely untapped. So there's a huge opportunity for DLP. And my hope is that it's one of the biggest, or if not the biggest, app on DIMO this year. But so going from there to general purpose applications that can do anything, with the recent interest in physical AI, and just to help to explain what a open protocol for cars could do, recently I've been telling more of this story. Some people may have already heard this from a podcast or something, but I've been telling the story of, imagine your car, it's not only self-driving, but also self-thinking. It has an AI brain. And your car enters a city, and it connects to the smart city AI that runs traffic in that city. You drive into Denver and your car says, hey, I want to go to this address. And the AI that controls the city says, you could go this way or this way. This way is faster. It's $3 more. And your car says, sure, I'll pay it. And it pays automatically. And it gets routed on this faster route. And the AI knows where all the cars are, all the obstacles, all the road closures. So it is optimizing green lights to make sure that you guys get there. Everyone gets where they're going as fast as possible. And then your car is driving 200 miles an hour, inches behind the car in front of it, because your car is talking to the other cars, talking to external cameras, talking to the AI, and a bunch of other sensors that are telling it if there's obstacles, if one car is going to slow down and turn right. They all know that before it even happens. And they can move like a train, like a swarm or a school of fish or something, instead of just individual agents that are walled off from each other. For that type of thing to exist, yeah, you need pretty smart AI and self-driving tech, but you also very much need a common system of identity, payments, relationship, permissions, messaging, and so on. And that's exactly what it is that we're building. So we're excited to enable use cases like that. We're starting to talk to some smart city folks. We're talking to some robotics folks who are going to implement DIMO in the brains of their humanoid robots, so they can get up and plug your car in when it gets home, and if the charge is below a certain threshold or something like that, or AI systems that can control the start and stop of charging for your EV, that kind of thing. And then long term, there's no reason this has to stop at cars. We kind of view cars as the way Amazon started with books, we're starting with cars. But every type of system, instead of telling the story about the car in the city, I could tell you a story about a robot and a Roomba and a camera inside of a smart home. And they still have the same needs for identity, relationship, permissions, and these things need to be universal and open across these objects. We have the internet, we have email, we have certain protocols that are open and therefore universal. And then we have these, unfortunately, we have a lot of like proprietary closed SaaS things that can never really expand to be as universal. We still use social security numbers in the US, for example, because an Apple ID is too proprietary, too closed. We can't let one company control identity for everybody in the world. But the alternative is pretty bad too. So blockchain enables us to do some of that more exciting stuff. In terms of just roadmap for this year, we just want to see a lot of these apps launch. Admittedly, the AI smart city stuff is a little further out. And this year, we're really focused on just fun, insightful, innovative applications that make owning a car better, easier, more enjoyable. And DLP is definitely one of those.
It's crazy when you say that. And Joe, I promise I'll shut up after this. I was like, Rob, when you say that, I used to have this framework in my head where it was like, okay, the purpose of Bitcoin mining, data mining from your car is like universal basic income. Like every taxi driver and every Uber driver, every Tada driver should be like the same way they have a Android phone, Android like mobile tablet, like serving ads to the backseat driver to earn extra income. Like this should be a way that they should be earning. But when you talk about it in that from that perspective, it's these cars will be self-driving. There might be an AI car that like picks up people that earns money and that like collects like stablecoin revenues to its crypto wallet and operates autonomously and it could potentially share its data. So it might be like a car managed by AI that has its own crypto wallet that's like earning on its own or like a Roomba on its own. So the network of data it's like interesting to think that kind of far out, but I will pass it back to Joe. But sorry, that just got me really pumped when I was hearing that.
No, go off. And I want to hear about the roadmap for Vana and DLP Labs as well. Just thinking about how DIMO has evolved throughout its history. And our founders are always telling the story about how it started as a coordination mechanism to go into a parking garage and have, like Rob said, cars actually talk to each other and make decisions based on that. Have a car pull out of a spot so another automated vehicle can pull in. And to go from that single specific use case to a generalized worldwide mobility decentralized network. You never know which way a project is going to naturally evolve. What's in the future for Vana and DLP, and especially DLP with kind of V1 this week launching with DIMO? I'm curious to hear what ambitions you guys have.
Ryan, do you want to take it away first?
Sure. So basically like roadmap question, what's going on in the future? I guess I teased this a little bit before, but I'll say it again. I know people are joining. I think if you're an Uber driver, if you have a rental car company, if you have a food truck, like in the same way some people have Bitcoin mines, they used to mine Bitcoin on their computer, and now we have these more specialized ASICs. Like you have an amazing piece of hardware, which is your computer on wheels, which is your car, and like you should be putting that to work for you. So we want to build this data as a service where the economics are shared with the data contributors. We want to do a data valuation so we can actually understand the full subscription potential of the data set. And we want to bring on partners to power our R&D, whether it's like battery science, road safety, self-driving cars, identifying locations for fuel and for EV. Maybe there are people who don't even have insurance in emerging economies who would like benefit for battery insurance or for auto insurance. So we want to identify all of those use cases and get those over to the line. So it's really growing. Like it's basically allowing people, if you have a car or a fleet of cars, allowing them to participate in the data economy and be part of a team, like including myself, by the way. I want to emphasize that I am contributing data to this data set. My car is connected to the network, and I'll be sharing my car's data with all of the subscribers. So this isn't like we're doing this as a company for you. It's I am part of the team. I really want to emphasize that. And my fiance, who knows nothing about crypto, I bought her a DIMO device to celebrate our engagement, which she was very confused about. And no, I'm kidding, but I did buy her DIMO device and I'm plugging it into her car. So we are both part of the network and we're both on Vana. So like I will onboard everybody to be part of our team because I believe in it. I believe we should participate in the data economy. So the first start is with this data union on DIMO, this DLP on Vana. And then the goal is to master this playbook because I believe there are going to be 10,000 different DLPs. Like there's a lot of commercially valuable data sets. And in the same way, like the early internet kind of found its footing with the advertising business, like data as a service is going to become a really significant driver to train AI models. So what I want to do in the future is really grow this data union, and then in the let's say 3 to 5 years down the line, like potentially launch other DLPs or other data unions. By the way, potentially with DIMO and Vana together. For example, what about if we also worked with Decharge and worked with electric with on the charging component, and we're able to get data from the chargers? Or what about if we were to work with like traffic data? So what about if we were able to build out other data unions with other, I'm not going to say a fleet of Roombas, Rob. You tempted me with that, but I'm not going to say that. Maybe that won't be the first one. But I could see us doing something with EV chargers. I could see us doing something with traffic data that that enriches the data set, that allow more people to participate. So that's the vision, is to enrich our data product, allow every Uber driver, everyone with a car, everyone with a fleet to participate in the data economy, and then to run this playbook with other hardware sensors. And I think if we can achieve this vision, like to me, the reason it's so exciting, and I know some people feel that like data monetization is a dirty word, but I do believe that this should represent an opportunity. If we can transform data into an asset, like that's good for a lot of people on the planet. Like that's a new way to participate in the economy. That's a new way to create value for yourself. So I think that it's like, to me, this is like a very cool thing to work on. And I'm excited about the roadmap of DIMO and Vana give us a lot of design space to experiment and grow this category.
And then on our end, I think for Vana, there's two real axes that we're going to play in for this coming quarter. One is in data applications. As I mentioned and alluded to by Rob and Ryan, like your data is beyond just monetization. It can create optimal experiences for you. So imagine that you've put your Facebook data or your Reddit data into the Vana ecosystem. What else can you do with that? Can you create your AI twin? We've got a really cool collab with a music producer right now where you would be able to control the DJ with your Spotify data. Like things like that, where you are able to create fantastic new experiences with the data that you already have. That's one axis that we're working through. And then the other axis that we're working through is basically how to create new financial primitives using data. So the example here is that when you're contributing your data or when you're looking at a data set, there's no way to really, right now, there's no way to say, oh, look, I'm bullish on this data set. I really want to invest in it. I really want to increase my exposure to this. On Vana, because each of the data DAOs has their own token, there are new and amazing things that one can do with those kinds of tokenomics. So if I was, for instance, bullish on the Facebook data set, I might be able to go long on that data set through the tokenomics within the Vana ecosystems model. Thinking through using data as collateralized assets, thinking through loaning against data, thinking through data perps. So ways in which we can actually build a robust financial system on data so that we can start to efficiently allocate capital. And just to illustrate that for folks that aren't really in this DeFi or in this capital space, like in traditional data collections, what usually happens is a big tech company who thinks that they can make billions of dollars off a new AI model will contract one of these data brokers and say, hey, I need you to buy this data for me at the lowest possible price. So that data company then goes to a bunch of people and says, give me your data, I'll give you like a $5 voucher for it or something like that. So much economic wealth is concentrated downstream when it can actually be more efficiently allocated and distributed upstream, which could result in a more performant model also downstream. So we're trying to play with different ways in which to allocate capital across the entire pipeline of AI and data to ensure that there is a fair and optimal economy to create new innovation.
Yeah, love all that. Totally new form of economy. I think it's like once a lot of the financial innovations over the last 50 years of like derivatives and CDPs, and not that they have a great connotation or anything, but what we're seeing a totally new type of economy and like digital marketplace emerge because the technology didn't exist before. Blockchain enables that coordination. It was at first a coordination method, a way to solve the Byzantine generals problem or solve the tragedy of the commons, and seeing it applied to data, I think a match made it happen. Okay, we have all these AI agents lately and chat bots, and even I am in the mind of, hey, I was chatting with Smarter Child on AIM in the early 2000s. This doesn't feel too different from that. But I think when the magic happens is when it begins to ingest richer and more relevant data to the users. What is so special about, I guess, in DLP specific case, AI agents or AI in general ingesting vehicle data, but not only that, just other types of data being ingested by other types of AI. How is that going to level up AI from this version one that we've been experiencing the last year or two with ChatGPT and Perplexity and Claude? Where do you think it can go with richer data?
So I think you said two DLP. So I will say one of the key use cases I want to enable, both directly through vehicle telemetry data as well as through enrichment, is improving self-driving cars like safety, training, things like that. So that is one very interesting use case. Another use case is to, if you're, I think as you see competition between like OpenAI, Perplexity, Grok, and things like that, I think a point of differentiation will be at the level of the training data. So the question is if you wanted to get information about vehicles, whether you're making a purchase, whether you're doing research, whether, like Rob said, to be able to be your own car mechanic, are there applications that could be built on top of this data set enabled through permissions that unlock value for drivers, researchers, things like that? So while within our scope, our goal is to source those opportunities, and then the roadmap we're taking is going to follow the path of what do we need to enrich to make a data product that's like highly differentiated and useful for those applications. The way I'm looking at that from a business perspective is picking the verticals with the most opportunity for the number of subscribers and like value that we can drive to the network. Self-driving cars, I think, is like a great repeatable example. Finding locations for EVs, battery science, things like that. People who don't have insurance for their car or battery, that could be an interesting application. But I do think that it would be interesting to go through exploration with even some of the companies like OpenAI or like an XAI. And I've talked, and they do, by the way, acquire data to talk about what their use cases are. Is there a privacy safe way that we could enable like R&D that would benefit both the drivers as well as those services? So it's something I'm keeping an eye on. I think self-driving is the first one. But we want to be ready both to meet that with vehicle telemetry as well as like with a roadmap around enrichment where we'll be uniquely positioned to address those needs.
Joe, I think you asked one of the questions here is what can we do with data that changes things a little bit more? I think Ryan, you've described a couple of use cases there, but I think one of the things that I think is not necessarily well understood out there is that all of the AI models that we have today have hit what's called a data wall. That all of the public data has already been used up. It's so cheap to scrape data these days that if you wanted to get the public internet, you could get it for $25 an hour on Bright Data. And in order to increase the performance of a model beyond what is currently available, you do need access to these data sets that you guys produce on DIMO, Rob, and Ryan has commercialized. That's the secret sauce to make your model better. And a lot of a lot of the Web 2 platforms started shutting down their APIs to access this data because they knew this was coming. We have a loophole in that we all own our data, so we can individually take it, but we need a way to bring it together in order for it to create value and for it to really change the performance of these models. So really, like, understanding that we have hit a limit, and that's why ChatGPT today feels like they're tinkering at the margins. It's because they can't get any better. They can't really improve these models with the public data. In fact, I speak to data scientists all the time that tell me, I want to get the data pre-ChatGPT because that data is higher quality, because it's not full of ChatGPT generated content. You end up with catastrophic failure in the model if you have too much artificially generated content. But that aside, like, this data is critical to create more performant AI in different aspects. So it could be in self-driving cars, it could be in companion agents, it could be in whatever aspect of your life that you want to create more performant AI. To beat the curve, you do need better data, which is private data. What can you do with that? I think it's the imagination. Let the imagination run wild. Ryan, I love your ideas. Rob, I also love your ideas for Roomba. I think that just think about, if I had this data set, what could an AI agent trained on this data set do better than what exists in the public? And you end up with some really cool examples of things that these AI agents can do.
Yeah, really. There was a clip from CES, and there's typed data, and that's what like GPTs train on. But for physical AI and even agentic AI, they need to operate in the real world and operate on real world data too. So and the good news is there's not a lot of like chat GPT generated content when it comes to real world data. Like it's mostly generating text and images, but less like vehicle telemetry and all that, at least for now. So yeah, there's this whole extra frontier.
That's actually interesting, Rob. There's a robotics data DAO that's deploying on Vana, and they have the same problem of anything that they're using to train their robotics engines is edited data and not real world, like real people's real interactions with tasks. So they want, for instance, somebody with a body cam washing the dishes or something like that, which doesn't really exist in YouTube from the perspective of the dishwasher. And I see the analogy there of like real world data doesn't actually exist. So you do need to actively source it from people, which is why DPIN is so important.
Yeah, you want to see how the battery actually performs in the car under stress and temperature and throttle position and RPM.
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah, and
you can't collect that data unless you're in the real world with real world circumstances. So that's why it's so exciting and important to be able to get these data sensory collection mechanisms and to be able to actually aggregate this data.
Definitely. And I think privacy is also like a big concern. I've loved to see the privacy revolution over the last 5 years of not only very nerdy people caring about their privacy with some of the breaches, and especially in the auto industry, we really use that as a messaging touch point, because all of these manufacturers are harvesting data and selling it to data brokers and behind your back with very ambiguous consent. And I think that is even more critical when it comes to AI, because we are trusting them so much and everyone is using them right now. So with these increasing concerns around data privacy and AI models, how does blockchain come into the equation? How does decentralization help mitigate some of those risks compared to the centralized approaches of yesteryear?
So you said for data, for collecting data?
Yeah, data privacy and how blockchain can plug into that. And
Right. I got into this a little bit earlier, but I think it's a point worth digging deeper on, which is think about the difference between a social security number and like your Apple ID. One of those things, really neither of those things are fit to be your identity everywhere. The social security number is sufficiently universal and unique to you and not owned by some corporation that can like take it away. But at the same time, it's like an incredibly low tech, hackable, insufficient form of identity. A identity given to you by a SaaS company is not universal, open, to be trusted, easy for anyone to verify. It lives on a closed server behind some corporate account. And so how do you get the best of both worlds? You use a distributed ledger that's trustless and open. And so this isn't just for personal identities. For any data object, the kind of unique ID for that thing, its portability, its chain of custody, it's who can control it, who's allowed to access it. It's just such a better fit for a distributed ledger. So I mean, forget all the buzzwords and things about blockchain. Like it's as a way to create a global, secure, open, portable data object. It's just so superior. And the ability to cryptographically control it and the cryptography built into blockchain makes it very easy to handle consent and custody and make sure that the records weren't tampered with or erased or whatever. You can always kind of audit the full history. There's an audit trail always. So just as a substrate to build data products on, it's just way better. And it's a way more solid foundation, and it's a way more fair foundation for people who are building in the space. So that's really the reason that we're built on blockchain, not because we thought it could be good for marketing or a cool way to launch a token. It was because it enabled us to do this. And automakers, frankly, just are not interested in some centralized company saying, yeah, we'll do the digital VIN for a car. Trust us. And we promise never to lock you out of it. We'll never go away. You can build your whole supply chain on us. Like, they're not going to do that. They barely even trust Apple CarPlay in their cars. Some of them have already taken it out. It may seem small to people outside of this world of data, but it's a game changer that unlocks it's not only an improvement, but it unlocks entirely new things that have never existed. We're not just going to incrementally improve something slightly. We're going to enable entirely new products and primitives that never existed before.
100% agree with everything Rob said there.
I do too. And that's why I'm building DIMO with them. We're coming down to the end of the hour here. Appreciate everyone sticking around, listening to some of the conversation. How can we get involved with these three projects, DIMO, DLP Labs, Vana? I think data is the future. I like to get in on the floor of things. Tell me how I can play around with each of your projects or participate or join networks or contribute my data. Give me a call to action. What are you trying to have users do right now today?
So I'd say go to datahub.vana.org, check out all the data DAOs and see what other data DAOs you want to participate in, what other data liquidity pools are interesting to you. I mentioned the sleep.fun one, but there are others on there. And if there's one you're like, hey, this data could be valuable and you want to spin one up, go to docs.vana.org and go and register you build a data DAO yourself and register it just like Ryan has. I think that could be really important for our ecosystem. And obviously, if you haven't joined the DLP Labs data DAO, make sure you do that.
Yep. +1, dlplabs.io. You can go to my X profile and you can go to DLP Labs X profile. If you have a DIMO car, you can sign up with DIMO. You can sign up with DLP Labs to be part of our data union on DIMO and Vana. To be early in what we're trying to do here. That is the main call to action. And if you don't have a car, that's cool. You can still follow us to be part of this journey. I think this is important for the industry, for these DePIN use cases, stablecoin use cases. We want to have a lot of different businesses being built using this technology. And that's like why we got into this, to unlock real value. So even if you don't have a car, that's totally cool. Would love you to follow on what we're doing, but definitely check out DIMO. I think these are like really cool projects in the space.
My call to action covers all three. So I posted in the thread for the space discount code. Vana 20 or DLP 20, either one works for today. You can go to demo.co shop and then click on the hardware device and buy one. I think with 20% off, it gets down to $130. It's a pretty good price for a pretty good product. You get access to the DIMO mobile app. You can track your cars, all kind of fun insights. We're adding new ones all the time now. And you'll earn some DIMO tokens, and you can opt into DLP when your car is connected. So go get connected, go sign up for DLP. You'll earn some points towards their airdrop, and you'll earn DIMO tokens every week. And you'll be enrolled in Vana indirectly through that DLP connection. I think
that is 100% correct.
Yep.
Yeah, moral of the story is use Web3 products. There is no better way to learn and receive value and get excited about the stuff that's going on in the industry right now than trying out different products and platforms and familiarizing yourself with what the heck this technology can do and how it can push the limits of how we coordinate as human beings. Thank you so much to all three of our guests, Rob, Art, and Ryan. Appreciate you guys making some time. I've had a blast coordinating with Ryan this week on the DLP Labs rollout, and it's so hyped to see so many cars connecting right out the gate. And that number is only going to continue to tick up as people share more data. Thank you, everyone in the audience, for tuning in. We're going to make this a more frequent thing. Usually DIMO founders will go out in the world and join other Twitter spaces, but we really wanted to have one on our turf so our community was aware of it and could hop in and get the latest from the horse's mouth. Until then, everyone have a great weekend. Happy Friday. Data is the new oil.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, folks. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Happy Friday.